Eduardo, super cool to connect. I was super happy when you reached out. We were in the same batch at YC. Was our batch the first remote batch or the second remote batch during COVID?
I think it was a second one. I'm not sure.
I think that's right. Regardless, it was one of the first remote YC batches, and it was an interesting experience. I think for that reason, I think they were kind of still trying to figure out what it all was. How was your experience? Would you say with YC?
I mean, my overall experience was really, really good because I get to meet like so many people. So that was amazing. But I hate that it was a remote batch because I
Yeah,
think that we lost so many like you know just to be around all the founders and all that stuff is way different than a Slack channel, right? So
yeah, yeah. The thing I feel bad about is like you hear a lot of people who do YC kind of say, "Hey, I made lifelong friends," and I definitely feel like I made good connections, but it was definitely muted. Like I feel like me and you, who knows, we could have been best friends or whatever.
yeah,
If we had been hanging out in San Francisco instead of you in Mexico and me in Utah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, but I mean, I think it was one of the batches with, or maybe the batch with the most amount of people, like more than 400 founders, something like that.
Yeah, it was really large. It was really large. I think it was the largest batch YC ever did. I think they've
So
scaled it back a lot since.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and not 400 founders, 400 startups. So maybe even like 800 founders.
Yeah, it was a
Or
lot.
even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, it was
So
crazy. I think our batch, it wasn't quite that big because we had some folks from the previous batch. I don't know. It was weird. Pandemic was weird, but yeah, regardless, it was large. What would you say was like the best part about YC for you that made it the most valuable? You got a
the
lot of
network.
founders, the network. Yeah.
I mean, basically,
Yeah.
because I mean, I've been building startups for the last 15 years, so it wasn't like like we learned so many new things in YC. It was just like being around so many like people doing the same as you. And I mean, I am from Mexico, so it's not a big ecosystem in Mexico. So like when you chat with people or about startups, tech, and all that stuff, like they don't get you. They're just
Yeah.
they have a restaurant or they're doing like a traditional business. So being around so many founders, it's really like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like there's so
Yeah.
many people like me.
It's so true. It's so true. I totally agree. I saw something interesting the other day on LinkedIn where it was like starting a startup is like eating glass or something like that. I think it's something Elon Musk said. So it's important to be around fellow glass eaters when you when you're going on this crazy journey. Well, I mean, yeah, I had a great time too. I feel like it was super valuable. And even like this conversation we're having, it keeps on paying dividends several years later. You and I are both kind of doing separate companies than the ones we went through, but I still consider what I'm doing now as a continuation of that journey. Do you feel the same?
Yes, because I mean it's the same industry, the same ecosystem. So actually, if it wasn't for YC, I wouldn't be doing rhetoric at all because being like around so many founders was like what gave me those insights that there was a big problem to be solved, that no one was doing it. So yeah, I mean it's just I started to chat with so many, like more than 20, 30 founders, and all of them were like, I want to build my personal brand because I know that founder led is like the way of doing it and blah, blah blah, but I don't have the time, I don't know how to write, I don't know, so if
Right.
it wasn't for YZ, it was I don't know what I would be doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, same. It's so crazy. Yeah, so to that point, tell me a little bit about rhetoric. Obviously, we talked a little bit, but I'd love just to hear kind of what you're working on.
Yeah. So rhetoric is basically like the solution for founders that want to have a personal brand, specifically on LinkedIn because they are B2B. So we're focused on B2B founders after Series A. So Series A, Series B, Series C. They
Okay.
usually have between 30 to 500 employees in their company. They are fundraising, they are traveling, they're like really busy people. They usually have an assistant or a chief of staff or someone like that. So they don't really have the time to write every single day and to be active and to creating
Yeah.
content and like the energy of having to think about all of that stuff. So that's where we come in. We basically help them via an interview session. We chat every 2 weeks with them, 1 hour session, and we just chat. It's like a therapy session.
Okay.
Um, that they really look forward to it. And we extract all of the golden nuggets, all the information, and we have a team of writers, editors, content strategists, designers that create everything. We send over the content for approval, and when it's approved, then we schedule everything. And that's basically how we do this. Like all the thoughts are coming from the founder itself, but he's not the one doing the writing, which is
Right.
the most time consuming
Interesting. So
task.
you're like taking the content from when you chat and then crafting posts from that.
Exactly. So everything is coming from that person, because it's not like we create content from scratch. We don't invent anything. Like we don't create
Right.
content without his insights. And also the
Right.
community management, which is extremely important on LinkedIn, being active, commenting on other people's posts. That's something that you need to be doing every single day. So we have a community manager for each founder that takes care of that strategically.
Got it. Interesting. When you reached out, you talked about this idea of building a content strategy.
Yes.
So one thing I'm curious is like this term strategy is, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like used to mean everything. It's like I got a strategy for this and I got a strategy for this, and I need to get a strategy to meet my weekly goals, and I need to get a strategy to be more healthy, and sometimes maybe it's used correctly, other times it could mean tactics, it could mean just a plan. I'm curious, when you talk about like a strategy for your content,
Mhm.
what does that mean? What do you mean when you say that?
What I mean is, so it's two parts. Like, one part is like how to do it in a way that drives results, like real results, like a funnel, a content based funnel. That's one part. And the other one is the content itself. Like, how do you create content that is going to really draw the attention of the right people? And the right people meaning your potential customers, right? So is these two part that we work with each of the founders to make the efforts really, deliver results rather than just posting anything whatsoever. So if you want to talk about the content itself, it's pretty straightforward. The way that it works is by defining cohorts. So for example, let's talk about grain. Like, who are your customers?
We serve B SaaS, and we call them productized agencies, which are basically agencies that are running a very, very like repeatable service model that they sell similar to how you sell SaaS.
Mm-hmm.
And we target companies kind of at the small SMB level, startup or SMB level, up to mid market.
Okay. So for example, one of your
And then,
cohorts could.
sorry, and then within those types of companies, we kind of have three different buyer slash persona types that we serve.
Got it. Okay. So let's say that one of the cohorts is productized agencies that are doing design work, right?
Yep.
Or another one could be maybe even copywriting or development or hiring.
Yeah, yeah. Development oftentimes isn't, because it's more customized. Like it's like very project based, bespoke projects.
Okay.
Something like we'll do a website copy audit and give you 15 recommendations. So these things where you're just kind of like selling them these repeat projects that are very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Agencies that do security, certain content agents. Your agency, which you just said, sounds very productized to me. It sounds like you've got a single package. The package has pretty much the same service provided, that you've got a very in like a tight kind of almost like productized delivery. So it's stuff like that, but not like these like consulting projects or development projects that are like very relationship based or take a really long time to scope out, and they're very bespoke. Those don't really fall into our target market. Although obviously we have some customers that are like that, but that's not what we define as the center of our like bullseye.
Oh, I see. I see.
And
Got it.
the reason is because it all comes down to the repeatability of your processes. Grain is really meant to help salespeople, customer success people, even product people who have repeatable processes to refine those processes. So, for example, like a sales team that's selling a productized service or a SaaS, they're running the same sales playbook time and time again, and we are able to record that, analyze that, help them find opportunities to optimize it. If it's very bespoke, we're not able to do that as well. Obviously, you can still manually listen to all the calls and review your call summaries and kind of do your own analysis, but we're just not as helpful.
Got it. No, no, but I totally understand, because everything that we do is like repeatable, like
Yeah.
repeatable.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing different is like the content strategy for each person and all that stuff, but like the overall box is the same thing, Yeah. Um, so yeah, so getting back to the content strategy, the idea is to define like different cohorts. So you have some of your clients are design agencies, some of them are doing I don't know, like any of a different industry or a different offering, or maybe a different type of client. Maybe you can have like design agencies that are for, I don't know, like early stage startups, or maybe
Right, right, right,
one
right.
really exclusive that is like high end. They charge maybe 7K per month or something, for example,
Yep.
right? Um, so when you define your cohorts, then you can start creating content ideas that you know that are going to be interesting for them. And this
Right,
is like
right.
the most important thing. Like you shouldn't be when you're building a content strategy as a founder, you shouldn't be thinking about how do you talk about your company or your
Mm,
offering
mm.
without trying to be salesy. That's not the way to go. I mean, definitely you shouldn't be selling at all, but you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that as well. You should just be thinking, how can I create content that is going to be interesting for them? And those
Right.
people are really interesting in a lot of different things other than your company,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right. Yeah. And things
So,
relevant to your company. Yeah.
yeah, so if you just become an interesting person to them, at some point they're gonna visit your profile, and your profile, if it's well optimized like a landing page, then the profile is the one doing the sales for you.
Right, right,
So
right,
you're not
right.
selling anything, you're not pitching your product, you're just being an interesting person. And because of you're an interesting person, they're gonna see the profile, they're gonna see what do you do, what problem does it solve, what is the next step. So then they get into your
And when you say profile, you're talking about like your LinkedIn profile, right? It's like
yeah.
interesting. So the idea is your sort of theory is generate really valuable, interesting content, get them to look at you. Then in that asset, it's almost like thinking about your profile like a landing page in some ways to your
Yeah.
site. Get them to then say, okay, now I want to see what this person's working on, try it out, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
you just
I really like
hop
that.
on the profile, and what I mean is think about adding a one-liner into the banner, adding the same one-liner in the headline section, and on the featured section, add one clear outcome and a call to action. And
Interesting.
that's basically it. Like it becomes a landing page. I'm not sure if I can share my screen here. I can show you one.
Yeah, yeah, you should be able to. That'd be awesome. I like it.
Yeah, I have one right here.
Amazing.
Okay, can you see this?
Oh, yep, we can see it. I love examples. These are the most valuable. Speaking of valuable.
Yeah, yeah. So for example, here we have Arjun. And here you can say, like, you can clearly see a platform to scale e-commerce businesses with WhatsApp. Like, you know what this guy is doing, right?
Totally. Yep, yep.
Then again, co-founder and CEO of Soko, scale your e-commerce with WhatsApp. Okay, I'm an
Mm,
e-commerce business owner. I'm interested in this, right? Then you go here and on the feature section, I mean, he has two. We
mm,
usually do one because,
interesting.
but one of them is just like the outcomes of using his company, and the other one is his newsletter to keep nurturing people.
I mean, this is something that I haven't optimized. Just seeing this, I'm like, wow, there's opportunities, especially this featured section. So this featured section is just pinned posts.
No, actually, there are links. So you can
Links.
choose between
Interesting. Okay.
posts or you should be using links and you just add a thumbnail in there to make it.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. So you want to think about, your banner picture, your description, the features section, any other things that you think people like. How important is this about section? Like, what other things are people not paying attention to that maybe they should be paying more attention to here?
So I think it's like the most important thing is the banner, the headline, because this part, which is
Yes,
called the headline,
I
is
always read those,
showing.
right? Yeah, and yeah, you see it
Yeah,
everywhere, and
everywhere, exactly. That's
yeah,
everywhere. So it's that. I would add again the one liner in here in the about section, but like to be honest, almost no one clicks on see more here. So
I never do. I don't.
no one,
That's
no one.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
And then the only place that you have is the feature section that you can click in here and go to somewhere. So this should be like your main CTA, basically,
Yep.
right? And if you think about that, then you have the feature section, and then your the posts are only things that this guy is saying that are like really really interesting, right? So
Yeah.
maybe carousels, like that's also really important. You need to be using graphics, you need to be using videos, you need to be using text, right?
You
But
know
he's
what's
not
interesting?
speaking about his company.
I did a recent analysis of my LinkedIn content,
Hmm.
and not just content that like led to not led to impressions, which I think is the worst metric, but tried to correlate, which is was hard to do, but kind of try to correlate like signups actually to my product and content I posted. And carousels seemed to perform really well on several fronts, which I was surprised by, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, carousels like 1 or 2 years ago, they were like great. Like, do you remember on Twitter when
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
was doing
Everyone was
threads?
using Yeah, right, right, right.
Like the carousels on LinkedIn at that time were like crazy. Right now, not that much. I mean, they're good,
Yeah,
but not as they used to be.
not as easy
What
to be
we're seeing
interesting.
right now is that the combination of everything, like text, videos, carousels, images.
You're saying combination ads like you want to do different types of through
Correct.
your feed, not in one post, right?
Correct. Correct.
Interesting,
Different posts.
interesting. That's fascinating. And then one other thing you said that I found interesting is so I was talking to another person who talks a lot about personal brands, and one thing that this person was saying was that you want to think about in the content you post to where it is in your like personal brand funnel. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you want to have top of funnel content, which is like more broadly applicable. You want to have middle funnel content, which may be more personal and maybe kind of people who understand who you are. They kind of get the inside details or whatever it might be. And then every once in a while, you want to do bottom of funnel content, which is maybe explicitly asking people to check out some new thing you built or whatever. Do you have a similar framework? Do you subscribe to that? Do you see it differently? I'd be curious.
Let me share you another screen.
Love it. This is great.
So basically, here you have your leads on LinkedIn, right? These little guys are your potential customers in here, these guys. So you need to think about like the blue section is the audience building, which we call it like the phase one. So initially, you need to focus on creating a lot of content to draw these, to bring followers into your profile. So if your content, your posts are interesting, they are going to visit your profile, right? And if your profile
Yep.
is interesting, they're going to go to the next step, because if the content strategy is built in a way that is drawing the attention of the right people, then they are naturally going to be interested in your offer. And because you are not
Mm,
selling your offer, only your profile is doing it, then they are like, I'm interested in this,
hmm.
right?
Interesting.
So, so the way that we usually do this is by focusing on scaling the founder brand to between 10 to 20,000 followers initially. That's like the phase one, the audience building,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
getting distribution and credibility. And when you already have that, you already have some distribution, then the focus is starting on putting them in, like in the moving the audience to the middle and to the bottom of the funnel. The best way of doing that is by creating a 5-day educational email course. So it's a free email course that could teach you how to go from A to Z in 5 different steps, or like the 5 biggest mistakes people do when
Interesting.
doing X, right? So
And
it's
you
a
think
free resource.
And you think
Sorry.
something like an email course is better than like a newsletter? I've heard other people suggest like newsletters or like an ebook or I don't know, but like you find this to be one of the more effective ones.
Right now, an email course is the most effective lead magnet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what is the fun like? Okay, so if you're me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. By the way, I was gonna make a self-deprecating joke earlier. I'm not quite in your in your target customer ICP persona because we raised our Series A too long ago and didn't quite. We've been doing great, but we were kind of some of the casualties of peak ZERP era. So I'm now like trying to get more lean and hustle a bit more. So I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I can say firsthand that for the CEO who's maybe in a slightly bigger company, a little further along than we are, like 100%, you can't do this by yourself. Like it has to be like one of your top priorities, or else you're not going to make any progress without help from someone like you.
Mm.
Just I'm shocked just doing this myself, like how time consuming it is to do it
I
well. And
mean,
yeah,
to do it well is a full time job, to be
yeah,
honest.
it's super time consuming.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm almost in your target market, but maybe I kind of phased out of it a little bit, but hope to get back into it soon. And then we'll do business. But so my question is, I'm a CEO of a SaaS business. Ultimately, I want to drive signups to our product led SaaS business or demo bookings.
Mhm.
but obviously that's several steps down the line. How do you think about going, in my shoes, going from something like this into actually driving business metrics?
Okay, yeah. So you started here putting content. You
Right.
are not doing any sales, right? You're
Yep.
just giving value, value, value. You're an
Correct.
interesting person.
Yep.
People see your profile and they're like, wow, the offer is interesting to me. Then they see these free resources, like, oh, okay, let me get it. When they get it, we can install a pixel. When they have a pixel, you can now do retargeting ads to them. So
Mm.
now they are they are still seeing your posts every single day. They are
Yep.
now getting a 5-day email course about how to do something that they want to do, and they're now getting ads from you. You haven't sold anything. You're just giving value, 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 value. After
Mm.
the 5-day email course, you funnel them into a weekly newsletter, which should be like more educational content, which is an email sequence that gets sent every week, basically.
Yep.
So
Yep.
now they are seeing your post, 5-day email course, weekly newsletter, retargeting ads, right?
Yep.
As time goes by, there's gonna be a way that, sorry, after the day 3, 4, or 5, like the last day of the email course, or on every piece of the weekly newsletter, add a soft call to action,
There's
because
like a
that's
I see. Yep.
the only time that you are promoting your business. So
Mm.
if you do this, people are going to be, I wanna, I wanna do that. I wanna learn more, because they have been looking at your content, and you have been giving so much education for maybe a couple of months, that they, like, these people are now trusting you. They trust you because you don't have an agenda. You're not
Mm.
trying to push through their throats your offer, right?
Right.
You're just
It's just
giving
like
value,
it's
value,
just
value.
say more about what a soft offer looks like, because I agree, because it's like, I guess would be, you want the soft offer to be genuine and helpful, even because you don't want it to be like, pull the rug out, like, hey, this whole time I've been helpful, but now I'm going to try to, like,
No,
you
yeah,
want
yeah.
it to
So
be contextual, I imagine. And yeah, anyway, you tell me more.
yeah, so in this never-ending email sequence, let's say that one of the emails is focused on design agency, low-cost design productized agencies, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
you like, everything is how you should do, I don't know, like cold emails and get clients if you are in a
Hmm.
low-cost design agency, something like that. You're just giving value, and in the end, and if you're interested in optimizing your repeating processes, click here to learn more about how we can help you.
Right. Right.
Like at the bottom of the newsletter, like the only, that's the
Mm.
last
Mm.
paragraph, and that's basically it. So you just add that on every newsletter, and people that are interested, they're just gonna reach out to you. And the beauty about
Right.
this is
Right.
that
Right. Right.
your cost per acquisition is basically zero, because, well, maybe, I mean, you're doing some retargeting, but that's more for like brand awareness and keeping everyone in your funnel, basically.
Interesting. So a couple kind of deep diving on this funnel, like retargeting ads. What do those typically look like in this scenario? Because it's not like they're in the retar. Is it like you're retargeting them with your posts and your content, or like, I'm curious. What does it look like in this situation?
So that's when it becomes really interesting, because you can measure how these people interact on your newsletter. So
Mm.
if they have been reading each one of the newsletters, and they have clicked on some of the links on the newsletters, then you can see that they are active. So you can create scores based on the engagement that they're having. If they are highly engaged, maybe you can send them retargeting directly to like an ad from your
Right.
company. Like, go and click here to get like 7-day free trial, for example. If
Interesting.
if they are not highly engaged, then you can promote another, like your posts. So keep
Mm.
promoting your LinkedIn, like some posts that were successful, like maybe a post that went viral, or like, that got a lot of engagement. You can do retargeting with that post. So you
Got it.
keep them
Interesting.
nurturing, 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 nurturing. You know.
Interesting. That's really interesting. So another question is at the top of the funnel when you've got like the, all the content, how targeted or like maybe targeted isn't the right word. How narrow and focused should you be in the type of content you're covering there? Like for just to give you to frame the question, I had a I was talking to one of these, probably a soft competitor of yours who's trying to sell me on helping me get my founder brand out there.
Mm.
And he was just kind of asking me some questions. And I mentioned that I was planning the next day to go on a hike and dive into a cold mountain river, which is something I do a lot of like hikes and cold plunging in the wilderness. And he was like, "Oh, that's a perfect post. I can already see it." And maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's not. I don't know, but like that was to me like showed that he thought it could be very wide. Like you're just trying to get people interested in you in any way. I can see that being good or bad, but I'm curious, what's your thoughts on this?
You just need to put any type. It's like building a startup. Like just build an MVP. Like, and the MVP is content.
Hmm.
Put things out there, and measure everything. And based on what is driving engagement, keep doing that. Like keep doing that, and stop doing what is not driving
What's not
any
driving
results.
engagement? Yeah.
And for some people, it's telling stories. For some people, are like giving lessons. For others, are like there's so many different things, but it's just testing basically.
Interesting. I love it. So you showed me that profile. You don't need to bring it up again, but did they have a like how do you link from the LinkedIn page to this like this offer of this email course offer?
On the feature section, you just add the link right
Oh,
there
okay,
with a
interesting.
thumbnail, and the thumbnail image, it's a like a graphic design that should include the outcome and the big button for the CTA, to make it more, more appealing.
Right, right. So last question for you. Do you think that this is something that every founder should be doing? Does it work in certain industries more than others? How do you decide if this is like is it right for you and worth the investment, whether it's putting in that time, like you said, it's almost like a full-time job or working with someone like you?
Hmm. Well, it depends. Like if you're in B2B, LinkedIn is like the number one place for like to be basically. Uh, but I think that the question should be if your ideal customers, your ICP, is on LinkedIn actively or not. And if they are,
Okay.
then that's basically it. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
And you're convinced that if your ideal customers are on LinkedIn, there is a way to do this right. It might take some experimentation and creativity, but there's a way to do it where it's efficient and it's worth the effort.
You mean by solo or what do you mean?
I'm saying if I'm a founder or a CEO or something, and my customers are on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
is your belief that this is always a worthwhile investment? You just need to figure out how to do it right.
100%, 100%.
Yeah,
It's like if you go to every networking event and expo that is about your industry,
yeah,
but you attend every single day.
right,
It's
right.
kind of the same thing. Like you're gonna start connecting with people that are in your industry. You're gonna meet some other people that are gonna start reaching out to you. It just you need to show up.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So yes.
Great way to say it. It's amazing. Well, that's a good place to wrap. Where can people find you who are interested in learning more, or potentially, learning about your services or following your content?
Yeah. On my LinkedIn, Eduardo Mussali, or our website is rhetoric.com.
And it's Rethorick, right? I
Correct.
misspelled it at first. I spelled it rhetoric, but it's rhetoric. Do you still just pronounce it rhetoric?
I mean, like however you want. It's
Okay.
just like initially I was
Oh, you've got the
rhetoric,
shirt.
and
I can see the shirt now. Look, there we go.
yeah,
That's how you spell it.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
great. It's
exactly.
good. I like that shirt. That's a nice shirt. It's
Thanks,
awesome.
man.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming, Eduardo. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.